Hey, good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Township of Wainfleet regular council meeting of January 30th, 2024 to order. Please stand for the national anthem. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Please note that these meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the township website and youtube.com. It is with great sadness that we share with council and with the township residents the news of the passing of our longtime employee, Michelle Hughes, last week. A caring and giving member of the Wainfleet community, Michelle celebrated 41 years of service as the township's crossing guard back in 2022, ensuring the safety of generations of Wainfleet school children who remember her caring gaze and ready smile as they made their way to class. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, February 20th at 6:30 p.m. Any announcements or remarks from members of council? None? Okay, we're going to move on to the adoption of the previous minutes. Are there any comments, corrections for the draft minutes from the meeting listed on the agenda this evening? Okay, so then I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 9th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor Vainfleet, Councilor Gilmore. Any discussion? Being none. So we're going to have to record a vote since Councilor McCullen is online tonight. So I'm going to start with Councilor Vainfleet. I'll ask the question. All in favor? Councilor Vainfleet? Okay. Councilor Anderson?
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councilor McCullen?
In favor.
And in favor. So that's carried. Okay, moving on to the public meeting. In accordance, purpose of our public meeting, in accordance with the Planning Act, a public meeting is held for applicants to present information regarding the proposed applications to the public and council. Council will also receive comments from the public. Staff will not make a recommendation and council will not make a decision on the proposed applications at this evening's meeting, public meeting. A planning report will be brought forward by staff and considered by council at a later date. As a member of the public, you are welcome to request to be notified of any future meetings respecting the proposed applications. Please provide your contact information on the sign-in sheet located at the back of council chambers. And please be advised that the sign-in information will form part of the public record for these applications. So I'll now ask the planner to provide details on the purpose of the proposed applications and any written comments received.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. As you mentioned, we're here for a public meeting for a draft plan of subdivision and corresponding zoning amendment. So the subject lands are located on the south side of Bell Road between Gilmore Road and Highway number 3. Property is approximately 4.82 hectares in size and currently contains a single detached dwelling and some accessory buildings. The surrounding land uses include residential and agricultural. The lands are located within the hamlet of Wainfleet and are designated as rural settlement in the Niagara official plan, village residential in the township official plan, and development D under zoning bylaw 58178. So the draft plan of subdivision is proposing 10 lots for single detached dwellings, 1 block for road allowance, 1 block for water for firefighting purposes, and then 2 blocks for the stormwater management. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the property from the development D zone to a residential R1-360 zone. And that exception 360 would permit a minimum lot frontage of 20 meters, a minimum front yard setback of 10 meters, minimum side yard of 3 meters, minimum rear yard of 10 meters, and a maximum height of 2 stories or 10 meters. The bylaw also seeks to deem the northern property line of lot 1 as the rear lot line for purposes of zoning. So a number of studies have been submitted and documents have been submitted in support of the applications. They are currently under technical review and will be addressed through a future planning staff report. So in terms of consultation required under the Planning Act, notice of complete application and public meeting was mailed to all landowners within 120 meters of the property on December 15th, and a public notice sign was posted on the property. The notice, along with the submitted studies, were also posted on the township's website, and the application was circulated to external agencies and internal departments for review and comment. To date, the following comments have been received. So Bell Canada requested conditions of draft approval respecting any necessary easements for the development. Enbridge noted no objection, but indicated that they reserve the right to amend or remove development conditions. Hydro One had no comments or concerns at this time. Canada Post noted that the development will be serviced by a centralized mail facility through their community mailbox program, and they requested some conditions regarding that. So conditions of draft approval. The township's building department had some comments, just noting that the existing buildings are to be removed with applicable demolition permits, that clearances for the proposed septic systems are required to comply with Part 8 of the Ontario Building Code, and that will be reviewed at time of building permit application. They also requested documentation regarding the existing water sources and ensuring that they've been appropriately decommissioned. He also noted that a portion of Street A and lots 8, 9, and 10 will be positioned on an existing pond that will have to be filled in, and that this would require approval from an engineer to ensure that there's no impact to the proposed road construction, driveways, or structure foundations. The Township Bylaw Enforcement Department had no concerns. The Drainage Department noted that the subject lands are assessed to the consolidated South Wainfleet drain, and that any parcel boundary changes need to be captured under Section 65 of the Drainage Act, which is known as apportionment agreements. There was also a comment regarding a legal drainage outlet to be achieved through a new municipal drain or mutual agreement drain. I will note that the applicant and the drainage superintendent will be having further discussion regarding this requirement. Township Operations Department noted some required updates to the civil drawings, specifically indicating the road allowance width, the width of the constructed road, and the turning radius for the cul-de-sac, just to ensure that township requirements are being met. It was also noted that a landscaping plan and street lighting plan would be required as conditions of draft approval. And then finally, we have Niagara Region, who noted no objection and requested several conditions of draft approval regarding an archaeological warning clause, the provision of waste collection within the development, the decommissioning of the existing well, and the provision of private water supply by cisterns for each of the lots. So those are the written comments received from agencies as of today's date.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to provide any comments regarding their application?
Okay, hi. My name is Liam Doherty of AJ Clark and Associates. I am the agent and planner for the project. First, I want to thank Sarah for all her work on this project. It's been many a year, but I'm glad we're finally here. I'm going to try and give you some context of what's going on and what we're trying to do, so it's all very clear and our objectives. Fine. Okay, thank you. Just quickly, this is Schedule A from the Township official plan. As you can see, we're right in the middle of the township, right in Wainfleet Village. And here is the official plan land use map for the Wainfleet hamlet. Our lands are on the west side. They are designated village residential. And that our proposal is to provide village residential development. So we are in line with the prescription of the official plan. This is the zoning map for the lands. As you can see that we're currently zone D. That is a holding zone. The only things that's permitted in a D zone is agriculture and existing homes. So we're also rezoning the property. Here is an aerial view of the Wainfleet hamlet. And then you see where the subject lands are. I just wanted to give some context where these lands are and how they fit in with the area and how the town works. Right. And this is the survey plan, which is also included in our submission, although not exactly like this. There was one question from a resident about the original road allowance. So I've highlighted here, it's in yellow. And I just want to state for the record that those lands are all privately held. They are not becoming a new road. So that resident can rest assured. Also, I've highlighted in green an existing bell easement where they have their lines going, and that is to remain on the new lots. So that is not being disturbed. And here is the map from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. One of the reasons it's taken so long for this application to get to this point was we were waiting on floodplain mapping, which was recently completed. And you can see it on the graphic above you in blue. And all of our lands are outside of the newly mapped floodplain of the creek. So we're outside of that concern area and we're able to develop. Now, drainage is a major issue. And here's an aerial view. And I've highlighted in yellow where the existing drainage lines and ditches are out of our subject lands. And there's some debate going on about, how we, get our land to the creek and whether it should be piped and whatnot. That discussion will be ongoing. From a planner's point of view, I'm looking ahead and I see three water ponds on our neighbor to the south. And I'm going to guess that water from our property feeds into those ponds. So we were certainly going to be looking at that, and we desire to work with those neighbors to ensure that their water ponds remain water ponds. But that'll be worked out through technical design as we go along. Here is the draft plan as submitted. There's a lot of information on it, a lot of topo. So I have created a simplified version. And this is the draft plan of subdivision. I have the 10 lots in yellow and the stormwater management blocks and firefighting blocks with a green hatch. Each of these lots are over 4,000 square meters, which is what we needed to get in order to allow for proper sanitary septic beds and have proper cisterns with separation. And we've designed where the stormwater management pond is at the southeast corner of the property, which is the lowest point, so we can then manage how it goes off. I'll go into that a bit further as we go along. The road itself is a public road. We designed it with 20 meters wide, an 18-meter bulb. I apologize, we didn't get it properly labeled, but we've designed it to township specifications so that the township can accept it and operate it as a public road and allow for proper firefighting roads and whatnot. Here is the servicing plan. Again, explaining how we're having a lot of issues with where to put our septic beds and make sure they're not interfering with the grade that we need, enough room for the homes and the cisterns, enough separation. We're not interfering with, there's an access block for the pond that was required by the township. And so that's been also designated or given to the township in an ongoing manner, so that we want to make sure that we develop this, that the homes that go in there are properly serviced, they're safe, they're quality homes, and will be a lasting contribution to the township and the hamlet. Here is the proposed zoning. And as you notice, there's 5 different provisions that we're asking for in these lands. The reason we're doing that is that the standard R1 zoning creates a lot. It's about 46 meters wide, but 87 meters deep, designed for rectangular sort of development. What we've done here, go back a couple. Our lots are narrower and deeper for the most part, although they all are irregular. The advantage of going with this design is that it allows a reduced amount of road space. And that's good for us. It's also good for the township, because one of the key ongoing costs for development and for homes is the cost of maintaining roads and asphalt and snowplow plate clearing, so that the shorter road, there's less cost being given to the municipality, and also allows us to have a more flexible and functional design for the homes. Going back to the zoning, which is why we've asked for a minimum lot frontage of 20 meters instead of 46 meters, allowing a minimum of 10 meters for the front yard setback, 3 meters for the side yard setback, and 10 meters for the rear yard setback. All of those are to allow the engineering of the individual properties and where the homes are and the septic beds are and the cisterns are, so they can meet all their requirements, maintain for healthy separations and allow us to have the proper grading, and rather than trying to get into a box which doesn't quite fit. The next one we've asked for is a slight increase in the maximum height, going up to 10 meters instead of 9. Now I've added in, maximum 2 stories because that's the intent of the zoning bylaw, and I understand that. But I was also looking at, modern designs, and once you get, you meter up for the first floor and maybe some higher ceilings on the ground floor, and you estimate about 3 meters each for the 2 floors, up to 7 meters. And with a house of this size, any kind of sloped roof, you can easily get over 9 meters. So I added the extra meter just to let the architects have fun and create some beautiful homes. But the zoning does specify 2 stories, which again follows the intent and allows a normal proper development of these lands. And the last vision that we're asked for is to deem the rear lot line of lot 1 as the northern line. Lot 1 is triangular, so there is no official proper rear lot line. And the advantage of this, the effects of that means that we're giving a 10-meter buffer to those homes, because we're saying, all right, that's the rear lot line, and you need to be 10 meters back. That means we can't build within 10 meters of those property lines, which should be welcomed by those residents, I assume. So in conclusion, we have a design that aligns with the Township of Wainfleet's official plan. We're providing 10 new homes on a public road that are with enough land to properly provide private services. The provisions allow the design to work with a cul-de-sac. We're going to maintain the character of Wainfleet and its streetscapes. And the way we're doing it will allow for a very orderly development of Wainfleet and its homes. That concludes my presentation. I'm ready for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions or comments? Councilman Cullen, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Doherty, I see there's 1, 2, 3, there's 6, maybe 7 fairly deep lots in it. And I can't read if that's in feet or meters on what I'm looking at here. And that's my fault, my problem, not yours. But maybe you can tell me how deep they are.
They range, I think the deepest around 90 meters. Everything is in metric.
Okay, so it's 90 meters. You were going to have a 10-meter setback. It's just kind of been my experience driving around town, and that people that have really deep backyards, they tend not to go back there and cut them, and they just become left as to grow up wild. It doesn't really look pleasant to the. You got to remember, most of the people come in. Somebody who lives in the city, they come in and move in. They get sick of cutting grass, and it just doesn't happen. I don't know if on those deeper lots, and might be between you and Sarah, that we can't get this front setback pushed back so to use a backyard, they're using more of their land, and they will cut their front lawn. You know what I mean? But and you got to put. I think now your septic is required in the front lawn as well, right? And with the region of Niagara. So you might be looking at further setbacks, maybe on some of those short lots, you can't do that, but on those big lots, I just see driving around town, people don't cut the backyards. And that's just a comment. I'm not, but it's Sarah, maybe it's something you can look at.
Any other members of council? Councilor Anderson? Oh. Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'm just wondering if on some of the deeper lots, I know it's hypothetical, but is there any sort of thought that maybe 1-story homes may be built that feed back into the back end of that lot versus 2-story homes? So you have a deeper home of 2,000 square feet versus, a double up 1,000 on a 2-story?
Absolutely. All these lots have yet to be designed, laid out. When the purchasers come, they can design their house as they wish. If they want a bungalow, they can do it. There is a maximum 7% lot coverage on all these lands because they're R1. If they wish to build within the existing zoning, they may do so. I do know that you still need to maintain enough room to have the septic area. You need enough separation for where the cisterns are. So that has to be balanced, but there is a maximum floor plate you can have under the current zoning, which I think is about, I want to say 286 square meters. So if people want to build a home with 286 square meters or come in for a variance, they absolutely can.
If I might continue through you, Mayor. Sarah, did we not increase our lot coverage to 10%?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that was a recent amendment, so the R1 zone does get 10%.
I apologize. It's been a long time we've been working on this project.
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Councillor Van Fleet, go ahead.
To you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few questions. The first one you'd mentioned was the southeast corner. You said that you would look at drainage in the future.
Yes, well, we've designed the subdivision to have a dry stormwater management pond there. And it's been designed to maintain the flows at the levels that they currently are. And there's some question whether there's some legal reasons for feeding into a municipal drain, which is what the creek is designated as, whether it needs to be piped. And I was concerned whether we fully pipe that water, then we're taking that water away from our neighbors, and that needs to be worked out. So we have a functional servicing report that accounts for all the groundwater and stormwater to be properly addressed and flow in the normal manner. But there is some comments or requirements from some departments asking for a different way of doing things. I'm not an engineer. I'm certainly not an expert on the Drainage Act. So the fine details of how the outflow of stormwater or groundwater that still needs to be worked out. We have a functional design, a safe design, and if it was implemented the way it's been designed, the normal outflow of water to the various neighbors would be as it is now. It'll be controlled through our stormwater management pond and various construction and so that you're not putting any burden on the neighbors, which is a very important key part of the design. But again, there's some details that need to be worked out through the fine design. And even though they are not my clients, neighbors are not my clients, I still have a concern for them as well. So I want to make sure that they are represented in this process. I know I'm maybe going all over the place, but again, when I look at the aerial photo and I see 3 water ponds directly south of us, and if I'm them, I want to maintain those ponds. And I don't want the big bad developer to the north to cut my water supply off. So when I say there's things to be worked out, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay, I understand that. I wasn't really worried about the ponds, but I'm worried that this is Wainfleet and we all understand the drainage here and how it's supposed to flow. I'm a little concerned with because of the area, because we're all very familiar with it, that it's not going to affect the residents around that. Like, I don't really care about the houses that are being built. I care about the people who are there now, and we'll care about the houses when they're built. So that was my one question. I'm very big on drainage.
Absolutely.
That's huge. And you had said that you want them to be how high? 9?
A maximum height of 10 meters. The current maximum, they haven't changed it, is 9 meters.
Maybe this question's for you, Sarah. Is that okay with the fire chief? Because I know we have a max that we can't go over.
I can double check with him, but I think the additional 1 meter shouldn't be a significant change in terms of firefighting response, but I will double check with him and address that in my report.
Any questions, Councillor Van Fleet? No? Councillor Gilmore, go ahead.
Thank you. Sarah, is there a maximum setback where the house would have to not be set back farther than?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, currently our bylaws do not set a maximum for a front yard setback. So we just set a minimum.
So the reason I asked that, I'm picking up on Councilor McClellan's comments, and I agree to some extent. However, in this case, I would definitely want to see, and the sketch sort of indicates that the houses are generally all going to be in one line. And my preference would be closer to the street, not farther away, for a couple of reasons, largely because it gives more of a buffer to the existing rear lot lines of the existing people, number one. And it doesn't allow somebody to have their front yard in the next guy's backyard. which, you know, happens around depending on when houses were built. Mine is a good example. My house sits very close to Perry Road, but been there for a long time. And my neighbor's house, I mean, is essentially adjacent to my backyard. So I see that the sketch shows that they're all in a line, but some provision to limit the maximum setback would be prudent.
For you, Chair. The surfacing plan, because there are no homes designed yet, these will be developed once the customer comes in and wants to build their home, and they'll design it and change things so that the engineers who have to do their functional surfacing report and, you know, preliminary grading and whatnot, they just put, all right, we're going to standard size house and a standard setback, and they just go around almost cookie cutter fashion, just to, they can go then run the numbers and make sure, you know, where the water's going, you know, they have enough room for the cisterns and so forth. So though that functional surfacing design, that surfacing plan is not saying those houses shall be there. It's all right, here's the maximum size house in the standard, you know, area, more towards the front because we need a septic in the back, and they go around and they produce a standardized functional surfacing report. And as we go along and get into design of individual lots and the homes, that will change. So people can come closer. I've asked for a reduced front yard, which allows people to come closer. But if you want a maximum front yard, that's something I have not considered. I do know we need to maintain enough room in the backyard for the septic area, so that is also a constraint.
Yeah, well, in some of those lots, you said one was 270 meters. Is that, did you give me that figure, or what, or 90 meters? What, 90 meters,
Yeah.
270 feet. So 90 meters is quite a ways when the minimum's 10. That leaves a great distance for the house to go in the back and then be looking at everyone else's backyard. That's all I'm getting at, is that I'd prefer it to be a little reasonably standardized. Not, they don't have to be right on a chalk line, but and my other question regarding the septic beds, are they going to be required to put elephant graves in every one for a septic system?
Elephant graves?
Well, that's a,
I'm not a stormwater or septic engineer, so I apologize. I'm not an expert.
well, we went through a period where everybody had to put their septic system in a mound. Some people put them in their front yards because that's all they could do, which, and they don't work. I'm just wondering if we've come out of that era and now we're using a little more modern technology so we can go back to normal looking septic system.
For you, Chair, it's my understanding from the functional surfacing report and the servicing plan that we're using fairly normal septic bed design in the rear yards. You know, but beyond that, I can't tell you exactly how we're designing it. I apologize. I do know we're getting a lot of scrutiny on our servicing plan, but I don't think I've yet to hear the word elephant tank, so I don't believe we're using.
Go to Ms. Ivins, the planner, for comment.
I can certainly address this in the future staff report. I'll have to go back and have a look at the hydrogeological study. My understanding regarding the beds is essentially what's on the ground there in terms of the soil and its permeability. And that was some of the reasons for the raised bed. Also, if you've got bedrock close to surface, then you've got raised beds. I don't believe bedrock is an issue here. But I can go back and have a look at the hydrogeological study and provide some comment to that and discuss with our building official. But I don't believe the intent is to have those large mounds, but I'll confirm in that future report.
Councilor McCullen, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is, I know on my street, as recent as this year, this summer, all of the septic beds have to be in your front yard or your side yard. That's a regional Niagara requirement. And your cistern has to be 50 feet from your the edge of your septic system. So with narrow entrances on these, you are going to have to push the buildings back to get these in. And I can tell you there was one built up on sand, and I know his septic bed had to be on his front yard. And the 50 feet was the minimum distance from a cistern to the edge of the septic bed. So these houses are going to have to get shoved back, and the builders, if you leave it to a builder, he'll give you a 10-foot driveway on that lot, and your house will be there, or 30-foot if that's the minimum, and it'll be there because he doesn't want to spend another $10 on the stone going in the driveway. So we're going to have to look at this really hard, Sarah, and make sure we get it right.
Councilor Anderson, you want to provide comment?
Through you, Mayor, just to address an issue that Councillor McClellan raised earlier. Mark, this one's for you. I believe that the Clean Yards looks at front and back properties. Does it not if something's unkept or disorderly, et cetera?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Upon written complaint, there is 8-inch maximum height requirement for grass, and that front, side, rear yard, that all falls under that loophole, that bylaw.
Chair, I want to respond to the earlier question about the septic beds. Our preliminary design mostly has the septic beds in the rear of our properties. And this has been long submitted to the township and the region. And the only comments we're getting back are concerning the outflow and how we're controlling it. We have not had any flags raised about having our septic beds in the rear of the lots. So I'm not sure if that is actually the policy. I could be wrong. Again, I admit I am a planner. I don't do septic design. So but currently we're designed to have them all mostly in the rear yard or side yard, depending on the lot.
Any other questions or comments, members of council? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to provide comment on the proposed applications? Anyone in the gallery wish to provide comment on the proposed application? Okay, you can go to the podium and please just state your name and address.
And now it's on, thanks. Okay, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Phil Huffman. I live at 2013 Bell Road, which is on the very corner of Highway 3 and Bell Road. And our lot is it'd be in the northeast corner of the proposed land. And my concern is we also have a pond, which was not noted. It is our source of drinking water. And we have a well, which we've had for 60 years. And it's always been plentiful of water. And yeah, there's never been any problem. So my concern is that the proposal would affect our water in any way, that we would, lose it or change it. Plus all the septic beds, they would be adjacent to our property, whether there'd be any effect there too. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other persons in the gallery that wish to provide comment? Again, so just please state your name and your address.
Roy Trevisan, 32161 Bell Road. I own the property that would run adjacent to the road running into the new development. I just have some questions. I'm not sure if you can answer them today regarding the time that this process is going to take to go through. When the building would begin approximately, is this appropriate time to ask that question?
I'll speak to the planner if she can provide any comment for that.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in terms of timing, so this is a public meeting. I'll come back with a staff report anticipated at the next council meeting, which is in 3 weeks, regarding a recommendation. From there, if recommending approval, there will likely be conditions of approval. And the applicant would have up to 3 years to complete those conditions before receiving final approval. Once final approval has been given, that typically involves registration of the subdivision, registration of a subdivision agreement with the township. And then from there, typically the subdivision agreement will set out timelines for building. So we don't have a set standard. It's something that we negotiate with the developer through that agreement. In terms of when they start building, how many months or years they would have to complete construction and complete the road work and all of the services. So I can't give an exact time frame at this point because there's a lot of variables that will impact when final approval will come around and when construction will start. But generally, those are the timelines that we would be dealing with.
Okay, so 3-year maximum, 1 year kind of minimum to run through all the administration and requirements. I mean, ballpark. So for me, worst case scenario, it's a year. Best case scenario, it's 3 years
Give
for
or take.
approval, and then the lots would be marketed, and then the construction would begin. The road would be built before that, I assume.
I'll speak to the planner again.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so through the requirements before any building permits can be issued for the lots, they have to provide the road. And that as well as servicing. So your hydro, your cable, phone lines, gas, all of that would have to be serviced to the lots and the road, at least the first layer of road completed before building would occur for each of these lots.
Okay, so approval, and then the road gets built, and then I'm new to this stuff, so, okay. I have a pond. It is not a source of water, but it is, it has a ditch or a culvert that's, that would run along. It would be on the west side of the road, which drains the water when there's overflow from the pond into the ditch at the front on Bell Road and then out. So, like I'm concerned that there would be some issues with the integrity of that being, affected by the road being built. Because I need that drainage. Whose responsibility would that be to ensure that that does not become an issue? Or if it does, it gets corrected?
And I'll ask the planner to provide comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we would be requiring a lot grading plan, and obviously the stormwater management is still being reviewed. But through the development approval, we would look to ensure that drainage is being handled appropriately. Is my understanding again that the water is draining to the stormwater area that's to the southeast of the property, and so it should be no impact to Bell Road.
Okay, that's stormwater reservoir doesn't really impact me. That's far south of where I am. I'm concerned about the water heading north from my property out. And the road, I'm just concerned that road will become, because they're going to have to widen. Right now, it's a little 1-lane gravel road. That's going to be widened significantly, I would assume, for two-way traffic. And that's going to impact further north and, south and or east and west. And my drainage out is going to make, I'm concerned like that might be impacted by that road. So is that the builders or the developer's responsibility to manage? And if there's issues, I have to resolve them with them, or is that the city's responsibility, et cetera?
Sarah to speak again.
So like I said, we'll review that through the design, the lot grading, the stormwater, all of that will take into account where the water is going. And it is our responsibility to make sure that that is not impacting the future road that's going to be built or Bell Road or the surrounding properties. So that's kind of the review that will take place through the detailed design. Through conditions of approval, that's where we will see a lot of this design work being done. And so council won't give final approval until we've hashed out all of that drainage matters.
Last question, we'll be getting updates regularly as to where the process or where the progress is as it relates to this via mail.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there's a sign-in sheet at the back of the room. So at key milestones in the development, you can check to receive updates, and those updates will be received by email. If email is not available to you, then I can certainly do that by phone or by mail if that's a preference.
Email's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other? Yep, there you go. So just please state your name and your address.
Jackie Topa, 32020 Clarendon Street. My concern is if the septic is in the backyards, that butts up right against our property. And our pond, which is our source of drinking water, is about 3 meters from our property line. So front yard wouldn't be so bad, but we are on the south side of the proposed lots, and it is one of the smaller lots, or as in shallower. So yeah, if the septic was in the backyard, that would be very close to our pond. And as wetted as it is back there, I think that would be a problem.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay. So seeing no further comments, I will now ask the planner to review our next steps.
So a planning report regarding a complete review of the applications will be brought forward at a later date and considered by council in terms of a decision on the applications. So I just have some notes to read regarding appeal rights. So if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submission to the township regarding the proposed applications before the township gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the township to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or written submissions to the township regarding the applications before the township gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Thank you. So that concludes the public meeting for the proposed draft plan of the subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment. If you wish to be notified of the decision of council regarding the proposed application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the township. Moving on to delegations. So we have one delegation this evening, Mr. Rob McDonald, who is here to speak to us about the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. Mr. McDonald, you have 10 minutes to make a presentation to council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff. Can you hear me okay? Okay, very good. I'd like to speak to you briefly about the proposal that I would like to bring forward to bring a Western Ontario Super Hockey League team to Wainfleet. It is an adult hockey league, very competitive. Mostly of players are former junior players or college players. It's very successful in 11 communities in Western Ontario. And they're all at various sizes. I've spoken with figure skating, minor hockey, and the Lions Club to express my interest in coming into town to do this. I thought it was the best way to do it since they're all very well established. And being the new kid on the block, you have to pay your dues, and that includes speaking to those who are there before you. So it requires ice time for 12 home games and a practice once a week to obviously be prepared to play those 12 home games and 12 road games. Teams come from as far away as Tilbury and as close as Dunnville. They're looking to expand the league up to 16 teams, which currently sits at 11. And I think it would be a nice little niche thing here in Wainfleet. And, I hope we be able to proceed with this in the near future. Now, I understand through communication, Mayor, there's some question with regards to the franchising, that information that was provided to council. That is all on me. But I believe in transparency. So, these things cost money, and everybody should know that it's not a fly by night. And I want to make an investment in the area. And, that's the starting point. That's not total costing. That just gets you your piece of paper, but doesn't account for all other requirements within the organization.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there comments or questions for our delegation from members of council? Councilor Philippe, you may begin.
I want to thank you for your presentation. I am very, very aware of the WOSHL. My son plays in it and was actually voted in on the All-Star team this year. He plays for Dunnville, where I know all of the local players here play at Dunnville. So I'm not sure you're going to get the people here. Plus, I know how much it costs to run it, and our township doesn't have that kind of money. I know all the owners in Dunnville. I know what they put into it. I know the volunteer base. I am very familiar with it, and we just do not have the money for this. Like, I know how much Dunnville has, in, like, the town didn't really have to put anything in because I know all those guys who own the team. So not only that, but they have players from Port Colborne on their team. So I don't think you would get the volume of players you think you are. Like the guys from the O, the guys who play, they have NHL players. So
yeah,
I just think that you're reaching to come to Wainfleet. That's all.
I appreciate that, Councillor. The way I look at it is I would rather be the bigger fish in a smaller community than go to a larger community in some of the neighboring cities and get lost. Niagara is rich in hockey players from the north part of the region to the south. There are numerous junior teams, A, B, and C, and they all have players who graduate out. And that doesn't even account for those coming back from university. I'm very familiar. I had quite a few players from Niagara play with us in Trenton on our junior A team. So it is challenging, I will admit, and that's why it's a baby steps process. One, to gauge the interest of council in hosting such a team, and then going from there. I have done some due diligence and some back leg work just because it takes time to develop a program like this. And you're right, and money. So, and I'm aware of certain teams and certain leagues. There's an Eastern version of this, and former friends and teammates of my children who played professionally, playing in those leagues, and they're not doing it for the love of the game. So, I just thought it would be a good opportunity for the township, if not the Western Ontario Super League. Perhaps there's other opportunities. But I wanted to gauge the township's interest before anything. Hence, that's why I spoke to figure skating and minor hockey, because obviously they take up the bulk of the ice time, and rightfully so, because it's a service to the community. And I'm just looking to be an add-on piece.
I'll give you credit, but I don't think we have the ice time for it or the money.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Councilman McClellan, is your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sir, I applaud you for coming in before us. I have a couple of questions. I don't know what you're looking for from the township, money, ice time, or all of the above, or none of the above. It's older guys, so I'm sure they can get later ice times for practice. I understand. Right, that's my thought on. I don't know what comments you got from minor hockey and ice skating, and I don't know what night of the week you're looking for. So those are kind of questions I have. I would love to see this come to town. I think our citizens, it will give them a place to go out on a weeknight or a weekend night. And, if the games aren't too late, there could be, a family entertainment. Even if they're a little later, it gives some of our older residents to go and see something that they don't have to drive 15 miles to go see. And quite frankly, some of the junior B teams that are playing around here aren't very entertaining. I can tell you that. So I think it's a great idea. I just, and I truly believe you can get enough players that around this. There's lots of guys. I mean, where I worked there's a bunch of guys that played university that are just playing pickup nowadays because there is no place for them to go. So yeah, I'd like to hear your proposal and find out what you're asking from us, because as Councilor Van Vliet said, our town doesn't have a lot of money.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Not looking for money, looking for the availability to gain some ice time. Ideally, the league plays, as your councilor knows, mostly on weekends because most of these gentlemen are young professionals starting out in careers. So it's mostly a weekend league. And you're right about the later practice time. As you get older, that's just the nature of the way the game is played. So ideally would be later midweek practice ice and a 3-hour time slot on weekends to accommodate the proper ice allocation required for a game at this level.
Any other comment, Councilor McCollum?
No, sir. I thank you for coming here. I think this would be a good idea.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, Rob. Can you just tell me what your corporate structure is?
So certainly, currently I'm the sole proprietor. I do have some investment backers, but I am the face and the presenter to the league, to myself, and to the town. So that's currently how it stands.
So if I may continue, Mayor. So are you a numbered or a limited company?
I have a limited company that this would fall under, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Gilmore, you have any comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think we are going to have a staff report. Have you discussed with any of our staff about your proposal, Richard Nan or anybody?
I've spoken with Mr. Nan briefly. I made the opportunity to come and speak with him, and he gave me some direction on how the municipality works, and hence my appearance before you now.
Well, I think we are going to have a staff report back. I like Councilor McCollum. I'm somewhat intrigued, although I would want to definitely flesh out how this is going to work. So we can't do that tonight. So I think we need a staff.
I'll just make my own comments. First off, good to see you again. We have spoken about this a couple times, giving you a tour of the arena myself. I will second what Councilor McCollum said. I think it'd be a great idea. It'd be a great thing for Wainfleet and give us all us residents something to do, something to look forward to on weekends. And of course, just like Councilor Van Vliet is concerned, it does come down to financials and not interfering when it comes down to minor hockey and our figure skating programs. So I would go with the rest of my council that obviously we have to come back to this after a thorough staff report is taken care of, but I definitely think we should be open to exploring this with you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move the motion to refer this back to staff. And that is moved by Councilor Gilmore, and we have to call a recorded vote. So, seconded by Councilor Anderson. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, so we will go to the recorded vote. All in favor?
Sure.
All right, Councilor Van Vliet, thank you. Councilor Anderson?
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore?
In favor.
Councilor McCollum?
In favor.
And in favor. Thank you, Mr. Matalo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
All right, we're moving on to our consent agenda. So we have 4 items listed on the consent agenda this evening. Those items are ASR 001/2024 respecting the 2023 development charges, ASR 002/2024 respecting the 2023 summary of tax adjustments, BESR 001/2024, the Clean Yards bylaw amendment, and BESR 002/2024 respecting the parking bylaw amendment. Are there any items that council wishes to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, okay. So then I have a motion that the following items be received and that the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. ASR 001/2024 respecting the 2023 development charges. ASR 002/2024 respecting the 2023 summary of tax adjustments. BESR 001/2024 respecting the clean yards bylaw amendment, and BESR 002/2024 respecting the parking bylaw amendment. Can I have a mover and a second? Councilor Van Fleet, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question of all in favor. Councilor Van Fleet.
In favor.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson.
In favor.
Thank you. Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councilor McCullen.
In favor.
In favor, so that is carried. Okay, we're moving on to staff reports. We're going to go into Community Development Service Staff Reports, CDS 001/2024, respecting the Planning Service Level Agreement. Ms. Earle, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Yes, thank you. And good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Please note that a similar staff report was provided at the November 1st meeting last year, which was deferred to a later date. This report outlines the significant changes to the Planning Act through Bill 23, which included the removal of planning responsibilities for the Niagara region. This changes many of the planning-related functions that the region currently has the responsibility for, as those functions will now be downloaded to the township. At this time, the date for proclamation has not been set, so in anticipation of this change, the CAO, myself, and representatives from the Niagara region and other area municipalities worked with the facilitator to develop a new planning service delivery framework that responds to the changes to the provincial legislation, expected growth needs across the region, and an improved customer service approach. The Service Level Agreement, or SLA, has been thoroughly reviewed by the township's solicitor. It sets out the services to be provided by the region to the township concerning all planning matters. It will replace our current memorandum of understanding once the region's planning responsibilities are removed upon proclamation. It's important to note that under the SLA, all costs will be covered by the application review paid by the applicant and developers for all services related to the development review function, ensuring no impact to the local ratepayer. Should council choose not to endorse the agreement, other options council may consider includes procurement of consulting services to an assortment of consulting firms, or increasing staffing resources for in-house expertise to take on all of the planning review functions currently provided by the Niagara region. Neither of these options are recommended, as they would have significant implications to the operating budget, resulting in a strain on township resources which were not considered in the 2024 budget deliberations. As such, the endorsement of the Planning Service Level Agreement with Niagara Region is the best option to provide the township and its residents the continuous delivery of an efficient and effective planning service. Staff support the SLA and recommend its endorsement by Township Council, and that the CAO be authorized to execute the Planning Service Agreement upon the future date of provincial proclamation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion that the Community and Development Services Report CDS 001/2024 be received, and that council receive and endorse the Planning Service Level Agreement attached between the Township of Wainfleet and the Regional Municipality of Niagara, and that the CAO be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the township on the date of provincial proclamation for the amendments to the Planning Act related to upper tier municipal planning responsibilities. Can I have a mover and a second? Councilor Gilmore, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Councilor McCollum, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm okay with this, but I really think it shouldn't cost the town anything if we go to private consultants that'll likely get things done faster and cheaper. And I'm going to say, I think when I read this, we had 18 months that we could walk away from this if we wanted to. I mean, there was a consultant, there was one in the room this evening that their firm could handle everything, all of the duties that the region does for us. There's probably a dozen more in Southern Ontario that could do the same thing. I really think we should be getting, at least go out and get prices on it. And, you know, it's the same as we do for our accounting firms. They do all our accounting for us. You get a price on it, you sign it with a 4-year deal, and they get paid by the amount of work they do. And I truly believe we should be doing that than just going to the region.
Ms. Rowe, would you like to provide comments?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the comment, Councillor. In the report, you'll note that if we did go with the consultant procurement, the problem we have with that is, one, we don't have existing relations with a plethora of agents that would be required across a broad range of expertise. I don't have an updated roster for those types of services. We're not the only applications or applicants that would be part of it, which may include us coming up against a lot of conflict for other agents that are acting as consultants for developers, for example. So we have very limited resources here with staff time right now, and we honestly don't have the staff to babysit or project manage a number of consultants for one individual application.
Go ahead, Councilman McClellan.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't think you have to babysit them. And there's lots of them around. And I'm sure there's lots in the Haldeman, North Fork, Delhi area that aren't going to declare a conflict over here because they're not doing work in our municipality or with, like, to just say carte blanche, oh yeah, just give it to the region. Their prices are not cheap. And it's the same thing. We are going to charge back to the applicant whatever the cost is. So yes, you might have to put a tender out, and that'll be the end of it, Lindsay. You're going to say, here's what you have to do. Here's the consultants, and get it done. And then the applicant is going to pay the bill. I think we could probably get it done cheaper, faster than what we're getting.
Ms. Earl, you have any other comment?
Yeah, the comment was putting it out for a cheaper, faster turnaround, which may not always be the case. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. The new reduced Planning Act timelines does not look favorable for council to send out or to arrange for these type of consultants. The region currently, excuse me, provides review for over 20 different types of expertise as far as it goes with the planning submissions for expert level consulting firms and planning related reports. So things like stormwater management that we rely on, hydrogeological, those are just some engineering ones. There's ones that are related to culture, heritage, cultural heritage, buildings, archaeological assessments, an entire environmental planning team that operates on our behalf. So there's a number of things and a number of provincial ministries, guidelines, documents that the region does provide service to us. If we choose not to go with the SLA agreement, there are a number of other things that the region provides that aren't included in this consideration. Some of those things might be mapping, for example. We rely on the region to provide all of our GIS mapping, aerial photography on a regular basis. We would be left without those types of services. There's other things that we're looking at or trying to work with the region would be things like our computer and database systems. We don't have monitoring systems for development application review tracking. We're working with the region on potential software programs to implement through our bylaw division. So there's other relationships that I'm sure council would like to continuously maintain and working with the region. And again, we don't know what the outcome is for this proclamation date. We don't know what the outcome is going to be with the region and the provincial review that's going on for the governance. So I think there's a lot of questions out there that we don't know the future, but definitely the service level agreement is the most straightforward and provides the same status quo. So as far as costs go, it's the exact same costs that the region would apply for or that the regional review fees would apply now for the same type of application review. So the developer or applicant is paying the same fees. We just collect it and pay the region.
Councilman McClellan, go ahead.
Yep. perhaps I didn't make myself clear. I don't mind signing this for the first 18 months. I'm asking for a report back that'll tell us before the 18 months is up. So in 16 months from now, if we can in fact get the same service at a lower cost. That's what I'm asking for. I'm not saying don't sign it. I agreed to sign it. It's get back to us and tell us if there's another way to do it.
Okay. Oh. Councilor Van Fleet has a comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Lindsay. Are all the other municipalities on board with this?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, and that's a great question. So out of the 12 local municipalities, 10 have expressed interest. Each municipality has a different appendix that's attached to the report. Some municipalities have their own environmental consultants, for example, so they wouldn't rely on the region for that service. Right now, 2 municipalities of the 10 have confirmed that they are supporting the SLA. So that's the status right now. The rest of the municipalities are taking it to their councils for endorsement.
Councilor Gilmore, go ahead.
Thank you. Lindsay, just from my benefit, go over this timeline again. First of all, they haven't said when we have to start this, and just what's the 18 months about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the date of proclamation for when the bill changes come into effect haven't been decided by the province yet. Right now, the province is doing their governance review, as you're aware, of the regional structure. So I can't see the proclamation coming before that's completed. So that could be this year, it could be next year. Whenever that proclamation does happen, we do have to be prepared as to whose roles and responsibilities where they lie. And it's going to be us. So we have to plan for that. And I'm sorry, the second part of your question.
The 18-month figure, what's
18 months was part of the kind of out clause that our lawyers had worked through to ensure that if we're not satisfied or maybe our needs change over the time period, that we have an opportunity to say, you know what, this either needs to be updated or we're no longer wanting to be subject to the service agreement.
okay, so this could easily be some sort of a 2-year horizon where we can, the Councilor McClellan's concerned, we can get out. And to be quite honest, we have no idea where we're going to be in 2 years anyway. And that's my problem. Like, and Councilor McClellan is well aware that I share all his concerns about dealing with this party. But in the absence of lots of other information that we don't have, we just need to, I support doing this. I mean, certainly wouldn't be my first choice either, but in the absence of not having a clue where we're going, we might as well just get on board and at least have some certainty when and if we need to have certainty. We don't even know if we need to have certainty, quite honestly. We're in a conundrum is where we're at.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Lindsay, I have a 2-part question. The $85 fee, is that a costing to us for their consulting? That's township pay. And the second part of my question is, do we have some sort of trend line of what kind of hours of regional support in planning, et cetera, that we've sort of done year over year? Is some sort of hourly total there? Thank you.
Thank you. And through the mayor, the $85 fee that is included in the agreement is for a strictly consulting-based service if we require the region to step in and do some work for us on our behalf. This is not part of the regular development application review. This would be, for example, if there was a leave in our office and we needed an additional planning person to come in and do some planning work for us on a consulting basis, that would be their typical fee per hour. The same if there was something maybe project-based, we could pay them per hour to help us out with. So we have not engaged the region in this type of service previously. This is something new that they are offering. As far as hours of regional support annually, I can't give you a good number of hours, but there is data, and I know that the planning and development group from the region does do annual reporting on how many applications they have reviewed for each municipality, which includes pre-consultation meetings as well, because those do take up quite a significant amount of time. So we're talking about not just one planner from the region commenting on our applications. We're talking about a group of, 7 to 10 planners, engineers, urban design, landscape architects, environmental consultants, stormwater engineers. So there's lots of kind of wheels that go into how much they support us. So I don't have a specific number, but everything that we review, essentially the region is reviewing from a provincial or regional perspective on behalf of a number of the provincial ministries.
Councilor Anderson.
Through there, Mayor, further. So Lindsay, the pre-consultation and reviews that need to occur on, applicant B, are those at this point courtesy from the region? And would they, under this agreement, would they become charge fee structures?
For you, Mr. Mayor, the region already does charge for pre-consultation similar to the township. So we collect their review fee at the same time we collect ours and send that off to the region. So it would maintain a status quo.
So just to get my head around the numbers, so the $85 would be above and beyond the sort of consulting structure that they do now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. That is an area that gives us some cushion and some creative support should we ever need it from a consulting side. So we will never have to pay the region if we don't solicit their services for something specific.
So if I might continue. So it looks to me like most of the paper follow-up is by us. If they bill us, they invoice us, we collect it, we pay it, we whatever. Do we have any sort of cushion in our sort of staffing salary that kind of covers that sort of activity? Unknown amount of activity, but is it covered?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is an administrative task that not just planning, but also the finance staff will have to do. Some of it is kind of covered already, so I don't see it being as an onerous task. We do have the flexibility to work with the region to determine how often those happen. So it may be beneficial for staff to only do it every month or every bi-monthly instead of bi-weekly, for example. So we're not spending as much time trying to do those payouts.
Oh, sorry, Lindsay, further. So if a given timeline of the process falls into place, the proclamation is made, we go into the MOU, are we then probably looking at, or would we look at changing some of our internal fee structure for those applications so that we capture that costing?
For you, Mr. Mayor, definitely that's something that we can take a look at. When we're looking at staffing resources, like I had mentioned earlier, we are stretched fairly thin. I can only see additional applications coming in from now, like our increase of volume is going to go up. We don't have staff to accommodate for that. So in order to make sure that staff are continue with their job satisfaction and that they're happy employees, we need to take a look at how much time is going to be spent doing that. So if it does become a noticeable impact, we can start tracking some of those time spent. That's definitely an opportunity.
So further through you, Mayor, thank you, Lindsay. That's quite a heady report. I mean, I can see why we deferred it because we had visitors down in the region earlier. So we kind of wondered if anything was going to fall out of that. But for me at the moment, I think pre-process, I actually agree with signing on to this memorandum of understanding and just seeing where we proceed from there. I think there's lots of timeline here to work on it. So thank you for that report.
Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Seeing as there's only 2 of the 12 municipalities signed up yet, I don't know. I agree with telling them agreeing to sign on, but I don't know that we want to do it right away. We might find out that our neighbors may have enough people in place and that we could do joint ventures with them or joint services with them and have this process work, or help them make the process work rather than us going and signing on right now. And we're forcing somebody else's hand to sign on rather than something that we could do as a joint service together.
Councilor Gilmore? Or Mr. Earl, you have any comment for Councilman McCollum?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, staff support that comment. That's always something that we are working towards with our municipal partners or adjacent municipalities to look in areas that we can streamline processes and or share services. So anything to do with planning in-house right now is obviously being reviewed at the staffing management level. And will continue to be.
Thank you. Councilor Gilmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So once the said alleged proclamation gets proclamated, will and all these services get downloaded, will that mean that these other agencies will have less involvement and oversight in our own affairs, and we'll have more, or will it be the same, or are we just going to do more work and still have them tell us what we can do and what we can't do?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So agencies is, I guess, a loose term. So if you're meaning provincial ministries, they still have their own guidelines and provincial policies that have to be followed. Similar to the Conservation Authority as a commenting agency, they have their own regulations. The region losing their planning authority would mean that they would just be providing us with recommendations and no longer providing conditions that they clear, but giving us the expertise through the recommendation that we would implement through our decision-making. So the final say will be with council.
So the region then per se will have less involvement in our day-to-day operations. Where, I mean, there'll be no change to the province. I can live with that. But if it means the region's going to have a little less involvement in what we do and we get to decide more about what we do, I think that's a good thing.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Gilmore's last statement, and I'm very uncomfortable, and my colleague suggested it, but I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of moving through a planning process at another lower municipal level of partnership. I'm not really sure that's where we want to go if we want any other municipality in the region having much to do with our planning department. I'm happy living with the region and whatever comes forward. So I'm uncomfortable with that municipal sharing, not in a lot of sharing services, but this is one that makes me uncomfortable. Thank you.
No further comments? Okay, I'm just going to call the question then. Oh, John, Councilor McCollum, you want to speak again?
Yes, just so on the, my thoughts on this is with municipal sharing is it's not that they would be telling us what to do, that we would share with a consultant that was hired to do it, or, you know, a group of consultants that were hired to do it, not, you know, the neighboring municipality saying, oh, your planning is this and ours is this. Our planning would be our planning. We would just be hiring consultants that would work for both parties, and that would be agreed to, and we'd have a little more strength on and finding consultants to do it. Councillor Anderson, that's my thought on that, not that the other town would tell us what to do with our planning at all.
I'm going to pass over to the CAO for comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to all of council. Just to kind of close the loop. So the staff report is recommending that this be signed only once proclamation has been achieved. So certainly discussions are ongoing in terms of shared services with neighboring municipalities. I can confirm that only the largest of the municipalities are even considering staffing up based on the different number of technical expertise that's required for some of these applications. So that just the sheer number of experts and staff, additional staffing that would be required is likely not achievable amongst some of our littler partners or the littlest municipalities. But definitely if new information arises prior to a proclamation date in any of these discussions, then we will be sure to report back to council.
All right, seeing no other comments, I'm going to call the question of all in favor. Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
In favor.
Counselor McClellan,
In favor.
and I'm in favor, so that is carried. Okay, we're moving on to the review of correspondence, C 2024-003, respecting the appointment to Transportation Strategy Steering Committee. At our last regular meeting, council deferred the correspondence item C 2024-003, respecting the appointment of the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee to this evening. Is there a member of council that wishes to make a nomination?
I'd like to nominate the mayor.
I will second that.
So we have a motion that the mayor. Yeah, that's moved and seconded. So any discussion? Yes, seeing none, I have to call the question. All in favor?
100%.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
Yeah, in favor. I wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Counselor McClellan.
You have the time to do it.
All right, so is that an in favor?
I'm in favor,
All right.
but I don't know if you have the time.
I will always make the time. So I guess I'm in favor as well. I'll take it.
Thank you, sir.
I was going to nominate you. You're lucky you're not here. Okay. Hold on. I got to get my bearings back now. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so we're moving on to C 2024-012, respecting the potential municipal equipment operator course. Is there any discussion on this item of correspondence? Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
Yeah, so this would be something that it would be done regionally or provincially, or how are you looking at this? I mean, this is not something our town has the wherewithal to put on a proper training course.
Mr. Dan, you want to speak to that?
Through your worship to Councillor McClellan, this is basically asking us to support AOR's efforts in going after the province to create a program that provides a training. And I think right now they're dealing with Fanshawe College, basically to do a specialized training program for municipal equipment. You know, we have the heavy equipment operators courses out there. They deal with certain aspects. But in municipal work, we deal with a lot different variety of equipment. So they're promoting, going to the province, asking for support in the skills trades development for municipal specific program.
Councilor McClellan, any more comment?
So again, then, Richard, it would be done regionally, not municipally.
Through your worship, they're looking at actually province-wide, making a program available province-wide to make it available for students to train in the specialty program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, council? So seeing none, we have a motion to support this item.
Yep.
Second, Councilor Gilmore. Perfect. Any other further discussion? Second. Okay. So being no other discussion, I'll call the question of all in favor. Councilor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Councilor Anderson,
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore,
Favor.
Councilor McClellan,
In favor.
and I am also in favor. So that is carried. Sorry, moving on to C 2024-016, respecting the amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer. Councilor Anderson, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that the correspondence C 016 from the town of Plenum, Wyoming, respecting support of the city of Greater Sudbury correspondence regarding an amendment the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer be received. And further to that Wainfleet Council also support the city of Greater Sudbury's resolution. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Counselor Gilmore, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question of all in favor. Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
In favor.
Counselor McClellan,
Favor.
also in favor. So that is carried. So moving on to C 2024-019, the respecting the declaration of a road safety emergency. Counselor Van Fleet, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
Yep. The correspondence item C 2024-019 from the town of Mono. But I'm pronouncing that right? Mono, I don't know. Respecting the declaration of a road safety emergency and associated call to action to the province regarding traffic safety measures to be received and that Wainfleet Council endorsed the town of Mono resolution.
Thank you. I have a seconder? Counselor Anderson? Are there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question of all in favor. Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
In favor.
Counselor McClellan,
Favor.
also in favor, so that is carried. Moving on to C 2024-027, respecting the AMO budget backgrounder. Counselor Anderson, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
As a bit of personal background, this deals with sort of fiscal positioning for municipalities. And I think it's a positive thing. So I'd like to make the motion that whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario is calling on a provincial government to commit to a social and economic prosperity review as part of their upcoming budget, with a review of developing a consensus report with recommendations by 2025. And whereas many municipalities, the Township of Wainfleet is also faced with significant infrastructure needs. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Township of Wainfleet supports this initiative and hereby directs staff to confirm the same by way of correspondence to the AMO and the Minister of Finance, and also that the Council directs staff to compose and submit a correspondence outlining the relevant concerns unique to Wainfleet to our MPP, Sam Oosterhoff.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Counselor Gilmore, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
Favor.
Counselor McClellan,
In favor.
also in favor, so that is carried. Are there any additional items of correspondence council wishes to pull? Okay, thank you. Moving on to bylaws, I have a motion that the following bylaws be read and passed this 30th day of January 2024. Bylaw number 002/2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 016-2021 being a bylaw for maintenance of yards in the Township of Wainfleet. B, bylaw number 003-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 010-2028 or 2018, sorry, being a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking in the township. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Gilmore and Counselor McCullen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor.
Counselor Gilmore,
Favor.
Counselor McCullen.
In favor.
Perfect. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Oh, okay, so I do have a notice of motion. I plan to bring forward a motion respecting mental health and addiction to our next regular meeting of council. Okay, moving on to closed sessions. We have a motion that council now move into closed session to discuss A, item under section 239-2A of the Municipal Act 2001, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, an application pertaining to an absolute title matter. B, item under section 239-2K of the Municipal Act 2001, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. One item, an encroachment agreement matter. C, item under section 239-2B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. One item, personnel matter. D, minutes of the closed meetings of council held January 9th, 2024. I have a mover and a seconder. Counselor Gilmore, Counselor Van Fleet. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, Counselor Van Fleet,
In favor.
Counselor Anderson,
In favor?
Counselor Gilmore,
Favor.
Counselor McClellan,
In favor.
also in favor. So that is carried. We'll now move into closed session.